got a copy of the Bible Believers Bulletin, and I have a question for you on the day of the rapture.
Mm-hmm.
And the sentence says, Paul writes in expectation of the rapture while he is alive.
Right.
And that would be somewhere around 84 to 87. And I guess the hard time I was having is, how does that square with inspiration? If Paul is writing inspired material, that indicates he knows the raptures, or he's expecting the rapture to come. What else is maybe he writing about, expecting, or thinking about that might not be right? That's a dilemma.
That might not be right. Well, if I told you the Lord could have come then, what would you say then? Wouldn't he have been right?
Yep.
Yeah. Could he have come then?
I'm not sure about that.
Okay. Well, let me show you. Okay, let me come place here. I'll show you a place. Let's go back to Samuel. I'll show you a place where it goes even stronger than that, where it's not just a man writing under inspiration about something that doesn't take place. In this case here, it's a case where God himself says something that doesn't come to pass. You can imagine that. And this thing here will be 1 Samuel. And 1 Samuel, let's find this thing here. 1 Samuel chapter 24, I think it is. 1 Samuel 23. Yeah, 1 Samuel 23. Now, I'll show you that thing on the possibility of the Lord coming in Paul's day in a minute, but let me first show you this. About this thing being in inspired literature that doesn't come to pass. 1 Samuel, you remember one time the Lord told Jonah, go down to Nineveh and cry against that great city and say, in 40 days Nineveh shall be overthrown? Was it overthrown 40 days? See? It's that thing. And when the Lord gives those things like that, there's always a variable. And the condition isn't always given. He says to Noah, go down there 40 days and they'll be overthrown. And the people repented and God saw they turned from their works, and then he changed his mind by what that's what got Jonah mad. He was holding God to his word. I mean, what are you lying? I mean, you wouldn't think a fellow accused God of lying, but Jonah is mad about that, and Jeremiah gets mad about it. Jeremiah one time said, wilt thou be to me altogether as a liar and waters that fail? Oh yeah, man. Some of those guys get bitter, boy. They get bitter. I always do appreciate Job and Jeremiah more than Paul. I always have. Because Paul has got too much victory for me. He's, I'm uncomfortable around him. Did you ever read the Pauline epistles straight through and notice that he never complains? Try that sometime. Read the 13 Pauline epistles. There isn't one of them where he ever complains. You'd think he would somewhere, but he never does. He never does. Always got the victory. I don't know if I'd like to hang around a fellow like that or not. I don't know that. And, be a follower of me as I am learning. Listen, I'll give you a good one. I am learning whatever state I'm in there with to be content. In solitary with blood running down your back, I learned no wife, no children, no church, no school, no life insurance, no health insurance, no retirement, no Social Security, no son, no daughters, no clothes. I am learning whatever state I'm in there with to be content. Of course, I got an alibi. You always have an alibi, And I tell the Lord, well, you took him up there and showed him heaven. Now, if you'd showed me that, I could take a lot. I could take a lot more down here than what I take. You take old Job; he didn't get any of that. All right, 1 Samuel 23, and I'm beginning verse 9. And David knew that Saul secretly practiced mischief against him. And he said to Abiathar the priest, bring hither the ephod. Then said David, O Lord God of Israel, thy servant has certainly heard that Saul seeketh to come to Keilah to destroy the city for my sake. Will the men of Keilah deliver me up into his hand? Question. Will Saul come down as thy servant hath heard? O Lord God of Israel, I beseech thee, tell thy servant. And the Lord said, he will come down. And he did. Then said David, will the men of Keilah deliver me and my men in the hand of Saul? And the Lord said, they will deliver thee up. They didn't. You say, why didn't they? Verse 13, David got out of there. But now you see, that kind of verse there, that's what drives a Calvinist up the wall. That'll put a Calvinist, not a businessman. Because the Lord predestinated what would take place, and it didn't take place. See that thing? That shows you the Lord's foreknowledge goes ahead of predestination.
Yeah.
The Lord knew what would happen if David stayed, and what would happen if David didn't stay, and it made arrangements for both of them.
Amen.
But how did it come out? It came out on his free will.
That's right.
Boy, you tell that to a Calvinist, that'll make him climb the wall.
Sure will.
Well, that is the thing right there where God said something and it didn't come to pass. All right, now in Paul's case, here's what you got. There's nothing that tells us the distance between the rapture and the tribulation. Now we assume this. We assume that when the Lord called the church out, that as soon as the church is called out, Daniel's 70th week takes place. In which case, if Paul was waiting for the rapture in his day, if he'd been caught out, we which are alive remain at the coming of the Lord, then the tribulation would have taken place right after they were caught out, back in here. Now this thing is going on now for 9 years. But the other night when I was drawing for you, I showed you a system one fellow had. And that system that one fellow had was a system like this, where the church is going to be caught out, and then there's going to be a period of 33 years preceding Daniel's 70th week. And then Daniel's 70th week, and then the Lord comes back to set up the millennium. That's the system that fellow had. And his date here for the Advent is 2029, sitting up there. But he got 40 years preceding that thing. If you subtract the 40 years from that date, you get the same date I gave you. You get 1989 when you come through. Now, nothing tells you when the church is caught out, Daniel's 70th week starts. And the problem comes up, if one day of the Lord is 1,000 years, and 1,000 years is one day, we went through that, then obviously a period of 6,000 years has to pass before the Lord comes back. So if Daniel's 70th week takes place as soon as the rapture takes place, Daniel's 70th week has to take place over here, and therefore you have to have 2,000 years go by before the Lord comes back. So why was Paul waiting for the Lord to come back when he knew that 2,000 years had to go by before Daniel's 70th week took place? That's the problem there. But one day I noticed this. You got 4,000 years for Christ. And when Christ shows up, they said, the kingdom of heaven is at hand. The kingdom of heaven is at hand. Where's Elijah? He's John the Baptist. The whole thing is set up for the second advent right there. And after Christ comes up from the dead, there isn't one thing that has to be done before the second advent. Said the Jews got to be in the homeland. They were in the homeland. You say Antichrist had to show up. He was there. Judas just hung himself. All I had to do is come up from the dead. When Christ comes up from the dead, all the conditions are set for the second advent. And we know the Jews rejected Christ, so it was postponed and put forward. But the question comes up, say in the book of Acts, what if the Jews had accepted Christ? Or if they'd accepted Christ, the nation, then the rapture would have taken place and Daniel's 70th week would have started right there. And the question comes up, how could Daniel's 70th week started there if that seventh period of 1,000 years, it would show up over here, is a millennium of rest? There's one of them, 2 of them, 3 of them, 4 of them, 5 of them. You're short 2 of them. But then, back there in Genesis 1:1, it said, in the beginning, God created the heaven and the earth, and didn't tell you what happened. And the earth without void, form without void, darkness upon the face of the deep. And then when God remade it, he remade it over here. That date is 4,000 BC. That date is 6,000 BC. And then the next 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, rest over here. The Lord had everything worked out, so if they'd accepted the Lord, the second coming of Christ could have taken place during the book of Acts, and the 1,000-year period worked out a perfect set of 7, and they rejected him, so he just flipped it over and did it the other way. All right, that's all we have time for now. Nothing like a Bible to clear up a college education.